Things are gonna get crazy!
Most everyone's mad here.
It's time! Yes, everybody, welcome back to an all-new episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast. And don't worry, folks, now the microphone is on, the stream is on, everything is all on. And for those of you who are not part of the stream, well, I mean, that is part of the fun of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast, so the context is only going to be left in here. But anyways, how are we all doing, everybody? I hope that things are going well. I know it's been a little while since last time, considering that I did have a break last week, especially with the fact that, well, there hasn't been a whole lot of animation news that has been going on during that time, which is why I decided to hold back a bit before we would go and start this new episode so we could go and gather more animation news that would keep on going. And then we would go and unleash our energy onto this one episode right over here. But like I said, hopefully things have been going well for you all during that whole time. I know things have on my end. I definitely have taken advantage of this break, making more fun-filled videos that are going to be coming soon on my main channel. And from there also, I do have to say that it is great to be back, especially with the episode that I have over here. Yes, we will go through a couple of stories that they are a little bit older. You know, we do have to go and try to catch up on what we have missed out on last time, even though technically there hasn't been a lot. But still, with everything that I've accumulated, this, I believe, is going to turn out to be a memorable and a fun-filled episode. So this is all around gonna be a great time. But before I go and actually start this episode, there is one little shout out that I would like to go and make, and that would be in regards to Terrence Stamp, whom very recently has passed away. Now, for those of you who may not necessarily know, Terrence Stamp is a longtime actor whom throughout the decades have played a bunch of memorable roles. Some people would even say that one in particular, I've seen a lot of people have shown love to, is actually to say that he was the best part of the 2003 Haunted Mansion movie. The feature itself may not be good, but his performance definitely carried the feature to at least have some substance. But probably his most iconic role is to be the original cinematic version of Zod in the Superman movies. So he definitely played a significant role in creating the character that we are now all familiar with, not just for comic books, but also for comic book movies and for cinema in general. So, you know, it's sad to see him go, but eventually, I mean, life goes on, you know, but the best that we can do now is to just, send well wishes to the Stamp family as well, to wish Terrence Stamp to rest in peace and that his legacy can forever live on. So I think that is honestly one person that we could take a knee to go and honor the man. So, with that said and done, we do now have a full episode to get through, and I can't wait to show you the episodes, or the stories, technically, well, this is the one episode right now, that we have in store right now. So, I hope you're all excited for this one. And with that said, now I would like to go on to the chat wall, and I'd like to ask you all, are you ready for today's episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast? Let me hear it, fellas. Are you ready? All right, let's see now. Yes, now people are prepared. People are ready. That is beautiful to see. All right, so now that everybody is all prepared, I believe now it is time that we shall go and get things started. And with our first story that I have for you today, well, like I said, we're going to go and catch up on what we have missed out on the previous week. Not last week, but the week before. And with this story in particular, it does sound very interesting, especially with the fact that this is actually coming from one of the most popular indie creators, Vivian Medrano, aka VivziePop, in which she has revealed that her production company, SpindleHorse, actually has a brand new animated series for us. And even though, well, maybe this will be a full-on series, but at the very least, she is going to be showing us the pilot of what her and her team has in store. And so, without further ado, we are going to go and begin our first story by checking out the trailer for the upcoming pilot of not SpindleHorse, that's the company, of Homestuck.
Happy birthday, bro! Did the beta come yet?
I think it arrived, but my dad probably has it. I've been trying to avoid him, as you can...
And that is Homestuck, the animated pilot, which I believe we don't have an official release date just yet on when this is going to be coming out, but you could go and confirm that in the chat if you actually know the details of that. However, I do know some of the details of the other things, especially coming from my source here on Animation Magazine, to which they have actually described a bit more about what this pilot is and where it came from in the first place. So let me just go and read you here from my source on Animation Magazine, as it states right over here. Created by author and artist Andrew Hussey as part of his MS Paint adventures, the Homestuck webcomic ran from 2009 to 2016 and centered on a group of teens who accidentally triggered the end of the world by playing a mysterious beta sandbox game called Suburb. Only by beating the game can John, Rose, Dave, and Jade avert utter annihilation and create a new universe. In addition to the comic strips and panels, the project also incorporated flash animation, instant messenger logs, and even browser games to expand the storytelling. And in terms of the people who are involved here, of course, we do have Vivian Medrano, who's going to be executive producing, as well as people such as Sky Henwood, who is the director and writer. Mel Shin is the storyboard director. Ben Jones is the animation director. Hone is the art director. And then you have Richard Horvitz, who's going to be the voice director. And speaking of voices, by the way, we actually do have the cast here, in which they include I think it's Cherami Lang, I think that's how you say her name, as Rose Lalonde, Colleen O'Shaughnessy, who will be Jade Harley, Adam MacArthur's as Dave Striders, and Brandon Winkler as Karkat Vantas. But then you got the main character, John Egbert, who is going to be played by none other than Toby Fox. Yes, folks, the same man who brought you Undertale and I believe Deltarune as well is going to be the voice of the main character. And according to the chat wall, it looks like maybe the release date of the pilot might be in September next month. But I guess we will wait and see. There's no confirmation, but it looks like it's going to be mainly September. And I gotta say, it is very interesting to see the trailer for this pilot. Now, I'm just gonna go and say this right now. I am not familiar with Homestuck or the franchise created by Andrew Hussey, mainly because I've previously never read any of the comics. I haven't been familiar with anything. I will admit, this is like the first time that I've heard about this in general. But by watching the pilot, I will say it is actually pretty cool. And there is something about it that I gotta say very much feels very internet based. Like this legit feels like something that is built for the internet and came straight out of the internet. Because looking at the animation style, I gotta say, it feels very much like something that you would find in, in Newgrounds. Like, it has so much of that Newground vibe where there's a little bit of that simplicity in the character designs, and even with the use of colors also, where the real world, I guess you could say, is presented as full-on black and white with some grays on it. But then they would really go crazy in terms of the cinematography and with the action as well. From what we have seen, even with the little clip that I showed you, just to go and play that again, like you got the whole birthday situation, and then the dad is just like spamming cakes onto the main character, John. And of course, we do have like some color that is later integrated, where you would see later like this little scene with like this flower, and like it's a full-on green room, but only the characters present is like in black and white. So I will say, in terms of the use of animation, it is definitely fascinating, and you could tell that there are some elements where, yeah, some parts may be simple, but then there are others that they really go extra to go and compensate by adding a lot more complexity, like I said, with the cinematography. So with the animation, I will say it is very cool. I get the direction that they're going, and it is pretty nice. Not to mention just the tone of it. It sounds like it's going to be something that's a lot more action-oriented, and something that would take itself a bit more seriously. Again, I could be wrong because I'm not familiar with the Homestuck comics or anything that they have done prior to this pilot. But this does feel like a series that is a bit more different than what would you expect from Vivziepop, especially when this is not part of her Helliverse series. So this is completely different than either Hell of a Boss or Has Been Hotel. So they're going in that different direction. And of course, it's also less comedy oriented, but not to say that there is not going to be any comedy. Like, there is elements of the trailer that we saw that it's going to be a little bit tongue-in-cheek per se, but it's not going to be driven by the comedy as much, or at least that's the impression that I am getting from this trailer here. But I know there's not necessarily a whole lot else that I could say. I mean, the trailer itself, it is relatively short, and I mean, this is primarily for a pilot, so we will have to wait and see with how that's going to go when that eventually does come out, whether it be in September or maybe later this year. But I will say it does give a pretty good first impression. And not to mention, by the way, of course, the voice acting actually does sound very solid. Like, we got some legit professionals here. And I mean, like, just looking back onto the list again, like we do have Tails herself, Colleen O'Shaughnessy, who's going to be part of the cast. Toby Fox is also going to be starring in this as well. And we got Adam McArthur's, and not to mention that this whole thing is like, at least in terms of the voice acting, it is going to be directed by a veteran like Richard Horvitz. So that's going. So honestly, I have confidence in the team to go and actually really deliver in terms of the voice acting. So that's going to be exciting to check out. So overall, I will say it does look very interesting. Like, I could see a lot of promise with what they are delivering on the pilot. And who knows, maybe this could be another tremendous indie hit for Vivziepop. And this could actually turn out to be a full-on series. But well, the best thing to do for now is just one step at a time. We'll see how things will go. And we will go and check out how the pilot is going to be later this year, or if the speculations are correct, later in September. And with that said, now I would like to pass this on to the chat wall, and I'd like to ask you all, what did you all think about the trailer for the Homestuck pilot? Did you guys enjoy that? Did you guys have any questions? Are there things that you're a little iffy about? And especially, I would like to know, what do you think from people who are fans of VivziePop's work, as well as any people who do remember Homestuck? Like, if you were a Homestuck fan and you remember reading the comics and following some of the adventures, let me know what you all think. All right, so let's see now. This is my first time hearing about Homestuck. I never heard about Homestuck at all until this pilot was announced, where there was a live stream where there was an event for it. Since I am a fan of VivziePop's work, I might check it out when it comes out. And also, fun fact, this is the first project from SpindleHorse's Australia division, SpindleRoo, because I guess SpindleHorse is going to be too busy with Has Been Hotel and Hell of a Boss. Yes, that is actually correct. In fact, that's one thing I did not show you. It was right at the end. Here, let me just go and play it for you. It's like right over here. They even presented the logo of SpindleRoo, just to go and clarify how this is more of a separate project than the main things that VivziePop is working on. So let's see what other comments are there. All right, personally, I'm not really familiar with the Homestuck comics, but it definitely caught my interest, especially with its really nice looking visuals and really good voice acting. So overall, this looks promising. And who knows if this becomes successful and becomes as big as VivziePop's other series, or even as big as the Amazing Digital Circus. All right, let's see. Well, other than that, shockingly enough, well, that's nice. I don't know if I'll watch it, but it's nice getting an adaptation from Vivian Medrano. Good for her. All right, so we do have another comment over here. To be straight, it was a little short of a trailer, so I kind of barely understood the content. In fact, I could say I never saw Homestuck, but it did look interesting, especially from the voice casting. Like, one I could say highlights to me is Alan MacArthur, who used to be the voice of a favorable character, including Marco Diaz from Star vs. the Forces of Evil. And I mean, good on him. I might give this a watch, so who knows if this might turn out to be a great series. All right. The best of luck to Vivian Medrano on her new show with the help of the Australian animators. I found a newfound love for her works and her shows like Has Been Hotel and Hell of a Boss. There are some of the funniest and best adult animated series. All right, very nice. I only know a little bit of Homestuck from a couple of fan art I found on social media. I really know it all from its massive popularity on Tumblr in the 2010s. It's insane. But yeah, congrats to VivziePop and her crew for bringing the series to life in animation, and I'm excited to see how the Australian studio went. Also, let's hope there's no toxicity for the series because, VivziePop. So yeah, ultimately, I guess there's not a whole lot that you may go and comment on this, but again, if you are interested in checking out the Homestuck pilot, then keep in mind, again, it will be coming out later this year or maybe in September. All right, so with that said, we're going to go on to our first break right now. And when we do come back, I know that with this next story, it is something that is considered to be an older story, but I can assure you that this is one in which you'll probably have a lot to say, especially when you are definitely familiar with Hobie Brown, who might be getting his own movie, so stay tuned for that. All right, welcome back. Now, when it comes to our next story, actually, when it comes to this episode in particular, I am going to tell you right now that this is actually going to be a more Sony-centric episode, in which most of the stories here will revolve around Sony in some capacity, including this story that I have over here, which technically came out a couple of weeks ago, or technically at the start of this month, but I knew that this is something that I really wanted to go and talk about in this podcast because it is a fascinating story, and especially it is a fascinating concept of a movie. And interestingly enough, I have seen varying opinions about this, maybe not necessarily with the movie itself that I'll be talking about, but with the intentions of it. But still, this all will go and create a fascinating story as I will go and talk to you guys about the potential Spider-Punk movie. Yes, it was reported that Sony Pictures Animation is currently in early development to create a movie that is entirely centered on Spider-Punk. So specifically, yes, this is going to be a Spider-Verse spin-off film that will be starring Hobie Brown, aka Spider-Punk. And they actually do have a few people who are already attached to. Now, of course, you do have Amy Pascal along with Phil Lord and Chris Miller, who are going to be the producers. But on top of that, they also have a couple of writers as well, in which these include John Singh and Daniel Kaluuya. In which, of course, you know Daniel Kaluuya more as a actor, in which he has appeared in a lot of great movies and providing a lot of amazing performances, which includes Black Panther, and then, of course, there's Get Out, and not to mention, there's also Judas and the Black Messiah, which I believe he also wrote it or wrote part of it, but I do know that is the one that he did receive the Oscar for Best Supporting Actor. Feel free to go and correct me if I'm wrong on that one, but I know that he did play a significant role in creating it alongside with starring in the feature, or at least be one of the side characters since he did win for Best Supporting Actor. But especially the big significance with Daniel Kaluuya, it's funny that he's also going to be co-writing this, but he also did play Hobie Brown in Across the Spider-Verse, which also explains how he did end up, he got a part of this project. So it is to be expected that he would also be starring in the film. And for those of you who don't know Spider-Punk in particular, just to go and read you from my source here on Deadline to get you a little bit more familiar with who Spider-Punk is, it states right over here, created by writer Dan Slott and artist Olivier Coipel, Spider-Punk, aka Hobie Brown, is a version of Spider-Man who leans into a more anarchistic, anti-establishment attitude than Peter Parker's version. Residing on Earth 138, the character is fueled by his desire to help take down corrupt systems. He first appeared during a Spider-Verse crossover event as part of 2015's The Amazing Spider-Man number 10. So technically, this is still a relatively new character. Spider-Punk is just 10 years old right now, at least in terms of his existence in the Marvel universe in general. But now he is already popular enough to possibly get his own animated feature at Sony Pictures Animation. Now, I just want to go and clarify, when it comes to Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, as you guys know, I love that movie. I would even go as far and say that not only do I find it to be better than Into the Spider-Verse, but I also find it to be, so far, Sony Animation's best movie yet. Maybe one of the best movies made by Sony Pictures, period. And there's a lot of things to really love about Across the Spider-Verse. But then you have Hobie Brown, who went on to become a massive fan favorite character that came straight out of that movie. I mean, yes, like you got a lot of the fan favorites who did return. Like you got Miles Morales, you got Gwen Stacy, you got Peter B. Parker. But in terms of the new ones that appeared in the sequel, a lot of people have shown significant love to Hobie Brown, especially with his anarchic nature and the way he would go and like defy everybody, like just be like, you know, like breaking the rules with like literally everyone and everything. Like he is like the ultimate rebel, and basically even helps out Miles in his situation when he would be explained all about the canon and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, like the dude is ready to go and spread chaos, and he's ready to go and save the world by just breaking the rules no matter what. And this is not even to mention about the animation style that is incorporated by him, in which he would be presented as like full-on punk rock, and you see like even his animation style is just so chaotic. So everything about him, from his attitude, his animation style, and of course the performance by Daniel Kaluuya is just a lot of fun. It definitely is great. Like he knows how to present the character in a way that is like very charming and that we would get on board with his chaotic attitude. Just a lot of fun. So honestly, when I heard that Sony wants to go and make a Spider-Verse spinoff that would star Hobie Brown, I am honestly on board with it. This is one that I saw the news and I was like, absolutely, let's go. I would be so down, especially if we could go and explore more of Earth 128. If we could go and just focus exclusively on Hobie Brown and see like, not just him, but also see his version of the Spider-Man world, where maybe we will see like the Earth 128 version of many different iconic characters. Like we would see like see the 138. Did I say 128 or like technically it is 138? Let me just double check just to be sure. Okay. Yeah, Earth 138. Okay, so it is that. So honestly, I want to see a lot more of that particular world. And yes, I do know, by the way, I'll just say right now, I am very aware that Sony did tease that we are going to be in that world in Beyond the Spider-Verse, but I mean to go and really expand upon it. See the 138 version of maybe other characters such as Mary Jane or Gwen Stacy, or how about if we would see 138 versions of like many of the villains, like the Green Goblin or Doc Ock, or maybe even like imagine a 138 version of Venom. That would actually be insane. And I mean, there's a lot of massive possibilities that you could really get into with both the animation style and this whole anti-establishment theme, like this whole theme of anarchy with the way that they could go and present, and with Hobie Brown trying to find a way to go and dismantle whatever establishment that these characters would try to go and build. And you know, it's funny because like it makes me think back that considering that Across the Spider-Verse came out in 2023, you do have another animated feature that did have a pretty anarchic theme to it, which is Nimona. And even some people say that Nimona is basically this kid-friendly version of what anarchy is, of what fighting the system is all about. And I mean, I understand that. And Nimona is another movie that I absolutely adore and is easily one of the best Netflix exclusive animated features that you could find. In fact, it's also part of the reason why I have seen plenty of fan art circulating on social media where you see Nimona hanging out with Hobie Brown, because like, you know that those two, that they would gel together, those two, like they would vibe very easily, and that they would go and like fight off against whatever establishment that they could go and face. So from there, like, we could pretty much see a little bit more of this Spider-Punk version of Nimona, basically. That's what I'm pretty much getting to, where I see the possibility where that could be a lot of fun. However, there is one major catch, and there is a criticism that I do want to go and address in terms of why people are not excited to see this movie come to life. That some people are very hesitant and unsure about the possibility of creating a Spider-Punk movie. And that is mainly because, well, technically, this is going to be another one of Sony's Spider-Man spin-off films. And, well, we all know how things can go with those features and how disastrous they became, especially in recent years. Like, say what you will about the Venom trilogy. Like, some people enjoy them. Some people think that they're awful as well. But then you also have Morbius, Madam Web, and Kraven the Hunter, and those were just complete disasters for Sony. So the prospect of another Spider-Man movie that technically won't be starring Spider-Man, or at least the Peter Parker version of Spider-Man, like, does make people pretty hesitant. That, and also, considering that this is going to be a Spider-Verse spin-off feature, some people are a little bit cynical towards it, mainly because of the fact that this just feels like it's another tactic for Sony Pictures to desperately try to maintain the Spider-Man film rights and to not have that go to Disney. That they want to go and find whatever excuse they can to keep those film rights so that they could still and profit off of the Spider-Man movies, even when Disney and Marvel are still continuing the MCU, and that they have plenty more ideas of what they want to do with the Tom Holland Spider-Man. So, and of course, I mean, they are still filming the new movie that's going to be coming out. Like, they're working on Brand New World. So from there, Sony is just trying to think more in the long run on how they could go and maintain the Spider-Man film rights without solely depending on the MCU Spider-Man, which is why they would go and try to continue the Spider-Verse franchise by making spin-offs, starting with the Spider-Punk movie. And I mean, that could be a possibility. That could actually be true in this case. Like, I'm not going to go and deny it. And I mean, I can understand the argument to why Sony would want to do so with those specific intentions. So, and again, I understand the hesitancy with the fact that, they're going to try to make more of these Spider-Man spin-off films, but now incorporating the Spider-Verse element onto it. And, on top of that, this could also be interpreted. This could be interpreted as full-on milking an entire franchise. And when it comes to Sony Pictures Animation, they are guilty of doing those kinds of tactics as well. Case in point, take a look at Hotel Transylvania and how that thing got milked down to the point that it just became dry to the bone, and it pretty much crashed and ended off on a real low note with Hotel Transylvania 4. So, yeah, Sony can be guilty of doing those things as well. And a lot of people are just very concerned if that is going to happen with Spider-Verse, where it's not going to conclude on Beyond the Spider-Verse, and the thing is just going to keep on going until it's no longer profitable and people would just be fed up with it. So yeah, I understand all of those concerns and all of those doubts and stuff like that. And I mean, they honestly, they do feel valid. That I can understand those arguments. But still, though, maybe it's just me, but I just can't help but feel like I'm pretty optimistic on the prospects of what you can do with a Spider-Punk movie, especially with how this version of Spider-Punk, where he made his debut with Across the Spider-Verse, honestly came out as a massive fan favorite character. It does make me excited to see, like, if they would have more ideas of what they can do with a Spider-Punk movie. And also, I do want to add that, you know, I don't want to rush Sony Animation to go and do this. Like, I understand, do what you got to do and take all the time you need in order to go and make that the best thing it can be if you would go and, like, really move forward with this plan. But I do want to say, though, that honestly, a big part to why I'm personally excited for a Spider-Punk movie, I just feel like nowadays we need a Spider-Punk movie more than ever. Like, we need a reminder of Hobie Brown's philosophies and try to implement that in the real world, considering that we are in a situation in the real world, especially with certain countries, in which we are seeing fascism on the rise. Like, we are seeing, like, with the way that Russia is going after Ukraine, or how Israel is going after Palestine, or especially how the Trump what is it? I was about to say the Trump application, but no, it's not. The Trump administration, with how they're going after Americans and all that kind of stuff. Like, the point is that with this rise of fascism and authoritarianism, we need a Spider-Punk movie, or we need a reminder of Spider-Punk's philosophies on how to go and fight back, on how to be anti-fascist, on how to be anti-establishment, so that we could take down this evil order that is going on by some of the most cruel people in human history. So honestly, I feel like it would be, I feel like it would be perfect timing if we could go and actually get a Spider-Punk movie to encourage us to go and fight back with what's currently going on with the cruelties of, the cruelties of Israel, of Russia, and the Trump administration. So yeah, that's honestly my whole opinion on this, and we'll see if this movie is going to happen at Sony Pictures Animation, but for me personally, I'm very optimistic about it. I hope they do, and we'll see how things go. I wish the best of luck on the team for doing this, and see how far will Sony allow this movie to happen. And with that said, now I would like to go and pass this on to the chat wall, and I'd like to ask you all, what do you think of a Spider-Punk movie? Are you guys on board with this idea? Are you excited to see this happen? Or are you... Oh, excuse me, folks. Are you a little hesitant if this is going to happen, or do you doubt if this is going to be a good idea? Let me know what you think. And also, you know what? Let me go on to here, and I just want to go and create a poll for you guys. And I want to go and ask, are you on board with the idea of a Spider-Punk movie? So let me just go and write down yes. Let me go and write down no. And let's see what you all have to say over here. All right, so let's see what the chat wall has with their comments. So this definitely sounds like an interesting idea. I remember I really liked Spider-Punk and Across the Spider-Verse, especially with his personality of taking down corrupt business systems, especially in this day and age. So overall, I could definitely see this having potential. However, while I really like the idea, a part of me also thinks that this is basically another desperate attempt from Sony to do whatever they can to hang on to the Spider-Man rights. Yeah, honestly, that's the thing. And you know, the more I think about it, the more I feel like this is going to be something that feels a little iffy and a little bit concerning about making this movie, and that is Sony Pictures' intentions. if they want to go and create a Spider-Punk movie because they got an epic idea of what they want to do with it, then I'm all on board for it. If it's for the same reasons why they are making the Spider-Verse movies, then yes, honestly, it gives it a good chance that it'll come out great. But if the main purpose is to desperately try to maintain the Spider-Man film rights, then that's going to be concerning, because those are the same intentions to why they created films like Morbius, Madam Web, and Kraven the Hunter. So yeah, we'll see how it goes there. Anyways, I never watched the Spider-Verse movies outside of seeing a few clips and reviews, and how the animation is revolutionary than the cartoony animation Sony has gotten used to in the past. But giving one of the Spider-Mans a spin-off movie and having the producer of that Barney movie, Daniel Kaluuya, on board, I think it's going to be pretty interesting to see. But let's hope the production of that movie won't have any problems in the production, like Across the Spider-Verse, and not become Morbius. Yeah, well, we'll see about that. But I mean, like, it is true that Phil Lord and Chris Miller are going to be producing this, so the chances of a troubled production is not zero there. But we'll give it a chance. We'll wait and see with how things may go. All right, now let's see what we got here. One cavant regarding the whole current politics is that the time a Spider-Punk animated film comes out, the whole Trump craze might end up getting withered away, since, assuming everything goes right, he probably will not be president, and we might have a proper president by the time this film comes out. Still, it's never too late to release the film, considering that it can still act as a cautionary tale on how something like the Trump administration should not happen ever again. And you know what, Masterminder? You brought up a very good point right over there. Oh, actually, before I do, let me just go and say that when it comes to the poll that I created here, it is unanimous. Literally all of you who have voted here, you have said that, yes, you are on board with the idea of a Spider-Punk movie. So this is actually a rare instance where everybody voted yes. But to go back to the comment that Mastermind wrote here, honestly, you do bring up a very good point about that particular possibility. But then again, if that would be the case, I still say go for it. You know, we still need those kinds of reminders. And honestly, it would make it better, because then the mindset of like fascism and authoritarianism and like the evil establishments, they will still be fresh in the minds of audiences. And then by the time that Spider-Punk does come out, then people will remember like, oh yeah, those are evil. So we should be more like that to ensure that it doesn't happen again. So I feel like, honestly, it's kind of like a win-win situation. Like, if Trump-style fascism still continues, then yes, we do need a Spider-Punk movie to remind us how to fight against the evil fascism and how to fight against especially white nationalism so that we can make racism illegal. And then there is also the situation if Trump finally gets removed and that, you know, like real Americans, Democrats actually take back America, then in that regards, it would still be good to have that, to have a Spider-Punk movie as a reminder why we should never have someone like Trump again, and why is it that we need to take down these types of establishments in order to ensure that they never happen again. So at least that's my little take on that. Let's see, what other comments do we have here? Spider-Punk was one of the biggest highlights in Across the Spider-Verse, and hearing about a spin-off movie about him does sound like a good idea, and I could see it work. But at the same time, I feel a little worried about its fatigue for the Spider-Verse, like what happened to the Lego movies. But we'll wait and see what happens next. I just don't want that fatigue thing to happen with Spider-Verse. Yeah, again, that is another concern that is another factor of where things can go wrong. And honestly, you're definitely right on that. But honestly, it's all one step at a time. I don't know if we are at the phase just yet, if people are getting tired of Spider-Verse in particular. I am starting to see a little bit of people talking about how they're a little bit tired of that Spider-Verse animation style coming back again and again and again, like not just with Sony Animation with films like K-Pop Demon Hunters, but then you also got Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem that's also doing it. And then you would see DreamWorks, who is also doing it a little bit, I believe, or at least like they're going in their own style, you know, like with their own stylized animation with some of their films. So yeah, I do get like some of the concerns there. But again, let's go one step at a time, and we'll discuss about the possible fatigue when we get there. Let's see. I think I got time for one more comment to go and read. So let's see now. Who can I go with? All right, I'll go with this one. Honestly, a Spider-Punk movie sounds like a necessary and badass movie to make. However, I am worried if it'll actually go as far as it can. Like, we know companies are bowing down and kissing the ring for fascists. Like, it'll be artificial anarchy fighting rather than actual calling fascists as they are. Are they willing to risk that potential ban and not just have the commodified punk aesthetic? Spider-Punk would call out fascists of the world. If Spider-Punk would call out the fascists of the world, he would be telling anti-woke grifters to go. Yeah, I mean, honestly, the thing is that I do trust that they can go, you know, like with the Sony Animation team and with what Phil Lord and Chris Miller were able to produce with the Across the Spider-Verse movie. Well, I feel like they were able to really get away with so much. Like, the thing is, the Spider-Verse features are very liberal movies. And there are some things that even in Across the Spider-Verse, they managed to get away with, like they managed to sneak into. Like, they put in a little message, not a little message, like they put in like a little Easter eggs of Black Lives Matter or protect trans kids. And even like the whole message about it, like it calls out Comicsgate and gatekeepers. It pretty much like it, and not to mention, like we also got like a black character who's starring in the movie and playing Spider-Man. So this is like the Spider-Verse movies are everything that Trump supporters despise in features. It's debatably the most liberal and woke movies that have come out in recent years, but it's also part of what is unanimously loved. So to go and answer your question, honestly, I do feel like if they would go and make a Spider-Punk movie, I think it's going to be pretty genuine. I think like if they want to call out fascism, if they want to go and like present how to go and spread anarchy to take down the establishment, I think they would be more genuine to do so. I mean, even in this day and age, like you see what South Park is able to get away with, I'm sure they could do the same thing with Spider-Punk. All right, so with that said and done, now that we are finished with the Spider-Punk story, we're going to go on to another break. And when we do come back, well, Hobie Brown is going to have a much minor role in this, but the starring character in this story coming up is actually not going to be from Sony, but rather it's going to be Shrek. So stay tuned for that. All right, welcome back. Now, on our next story, we're going to go and talk about one of the most talked about and probably one of the most anticipated sequels that's coming soon, Shrek 5. And I remember when that movie was announced, oh boy, were animation fans hyped up about the prospects, not necessarily of the movie itself, but specifically when it was coming out, because originally it was planned for a release of early July of 2026, which placed itself very close to another franchise that was going to have their fifth movie, Toy Story 5. And from there, a lot of people were just getting ready for the ultimate clash between Toy Story 5 and Shrek 5. It just felt so perfect to see that kind of box office battle between the two films coming together. And everybody was ready to go and hype themselves up to see what they were going to do with it. But then suddenly those hopes have been immediately dashed when DreamWorks and Universal decided to go and delay that to the end of 2026, specifically around Christmas time of that year. In which, okay, maybe you won't see that battle of Toy Story 5 versus Shrek 5, but hey, it is released closely to Ice Age 6, so maybe you can have that little brawl between early computer animated franchises. So maybe that could go and work out, right? Well, recently, that's not gonna happen either. Because what happened instead is that, well, Shrek decided to do the same thing. And that is to delay itself by another half a year. Yes, Universal and DreamWorks has announced that they are going to be delaying Shrek 5 from December 23rd, 2026 to June 30th of 2027. Now, it is also worth noting, I might as well go and get this out of the way, that there was a little bit of a schedule switch up because originally there was something that is considered to be an event film from Illumination that was scheduled there, but instead they revealed that now they're going to switch that up too by releasing that movie earlier, where now the event film from Illumination shall now be released on April 16th, 2027. Now, there's not a whole lot to go and discuss about this particular release date switch. It doesn't necessarily seem that much until you realize where Shrek is right now with that release date on June 30th. Because it is even noted on this article from Variety that now Shrek is now placed on the week after Spider-Man Beyond the Spider-Verse. So for those of you who are still hoping to see Shrek brawl with Shrek 5, well, he is, but now it is going to be against Miles Morales with the finale of the Spider-Verse trilogy. And that's not the only movie either, by the way, but I will get to that a little bit later. But to go and talk about this particular delay, yes, now Shrek has to go through a second big delay where now, if we do factor in from where he was originally placed when the fifth movie was first announced, they pretty much had to go and delay that by a full year now. But why though? Why is it that DreamWorks and Universal decided to do this big delay again? And there are no confirmations from what I could go and find, but there are three speculations in which people have thought about, like three theories to explain why this might have happened. Now, theory number one would be that, well, it's kind of the typical reason why you would see a movie go and be delayed, is because the team decided that they want to go and try to update the story and try to improve the feature, so they needed a little bit more time to do a lot more of the restructuring so that they could get the narrative correct and something that would be worthy for this particular Shrek movie. So that could possibly be a reason, and it's just, redoing a lot of the story, and of course from there it would mean redoing some new animations. So that could be part of the reason why. Then there is the second theory that many people thought about, and that is in terms of the designs. Now, as you guys may recall, when we did get our first taste of what Shrek and the rest of the characters are going to look like in Shrek 5, they were noticeably a little bit more different than what they used to be. Now, some people were completely cool with the change, and there were some, or I would actually say many, in fact, they barely even notice any differences in the character designs at all. But then there are others, however, where they were outraged and caused massive controversy where people were seriously upset over the new character designs that were made by Shrek, basically messing with their nostalgia, if you will, by ruining Shrek's appearance in order to make him look more animated instead of something that tried to be a bit more realistic, like in the previous 4 Shrek films. And some people have theorized that maybe this delay is occurring mainly because the animators are going to be switching up the character designs to look a bit more like what Shrek used to be. So that could be the possibility that they may do that. And why is it that they need a lot more time with the production, so they would have to go and move that up by another half a year? Or there is the third theory, and it's merely because they wanted to move Shrek away from the massive competition that was going on in December of 2026. Because around that time, oh yeah, there's going to be a lot of big name movies that are going to be coming out. Yes, I did already mention that there's going to be Ice Age 6, but no pun intended, that is the tip of the iceberg in terms of the big name movies coming out there. Because then you also have Dune Part 3, and then there is also, and what people are expecting possibly to be the major one, Avengers Doomsday. And I think it is safe to say that there are plenty more people who are excited to see Robert Downey Jr. as Doctor Doom rather than being excited to see the comeback of Shrek. So in that regards, there is a possibility they would just want to go and actually move Shrek away from that intense competition. And especially with Ice Age involved, it's really going to chip away its box office potential. So that's why Shrek is going to be moved to the middle of summer, where now it is going to be on June 30th. But still, though, it is rather crazy that Shrek is now moved to that date in particular, because now, even though Shrek has theoretically avoided massive competition, now Shrek is going to be facing even more direct competition. Like, already alone, you got Spider-Man Beyond the Spider-Verse, which that one is already massively anticipated right there. Like, yeah, maybe Doomsday has a lot more chances to be a billion-dollar hit than Beyond the Spider-Verse, but that doesn't change that there is still tremendous hype for Beyond the Spider-Verse in the first place, especially with the fact that, well, it is going to be the grand finale of the Spider-Verse trilogy. So you can imagine there's already a lot of massive anticipation there. But that's not all, though. There are still the other animation and animation-related movies that are going to be coming out around that same time. So yes, before Shrek 5, there's going to be Beyond the Spider-Verse. But then, before that, there's going to be Gato, one of the upcoming Pixar original animated movies, in which this one is going to be directed by the same director who did Luca, and even promises that it will be delivering a brand new animation style. So there's already a lot of curious eyes that are going to be looking into what's going to be in store with that one. And then you also got the week before that, it is scheduled to be the sequel to the How to Train Your Dragon live action remake. So already, right there, week after week, you got a whole bunch of animated movies from major animated franchises, rather it be from How to Train Your Dragon, Shrek, How to Train Your Dragon, Spider-Verse, and technically Pixar, already up, ready for the big competition that's going to be facing at the box office. And Shrek decided that they're going to add themselves into all that. So you can imagine it's going to be a very intense week for animation fans. So yeah, it's going to be quite crazy right there. And even with all that, so with all that said, by the way, it does raise the question, does that mean Shrek is still going to do well at the box office, or is it going to flop? And I think in that regards, it's all going to depend on how the feature itself is going to be. I mean, there is that likelihood that it could be a tremendous flop and that the comeback is not going to be worth it at all. The fact that a fifth Shrek film feels absolutely unnecessary. You know, there's going to be those factors right there. But if Shrek can prove that the movie itself could actually be worth it, that this is the film that fans could actually be very excited about and, like, you know, quickly jump in and they'll have a lot of fun with it. If they can nail on the nostalgia factor, but also provide some great storytelling as well, like maybe something on par to Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, then yeah, I think it might actually do pretty well. I mean, I doubt if it's going to reach the levels of like Shrek 2 in terms of how well it's going to do at the box office, because again, with so many different choices between Gato, How to Train Your Dragon 2, and Beyond the Spider-Verse, it is going to play a factor on how it's going to do at the box office. But still, if the movie itself is good and the word of mouth is very positive on it, then it might actually have a chance to actually do well in its own right. Again, I highly doubt it if it's going to be successful to the point where it could even reach like $1 billion at the box office. But I think it ultimately depends on the movie itself and if audiences are going to really resonate with that to the point where they could give it a chance to say, hey, let's go and watch all of these movies. And Shrek 5 is also included in the stuff that we got to go and check out. So it's all a matter of time to see how they are going to do. But still, though, it's just crazy to see how Shrek decided that it would get itself involved with some, not just massive competition, but massive direct competition. Is it the right move to do so instead of just staying on its December 2026 release, where it would be up against Dune Part 3 and Avengers Doomsday and Ice Age 6? I honestly don't know, but hopefully with the time that they have, I do hope that the team at DreamWorks will be using that wisely in order to go and like craft this Shrek movie to be the best that it can be, and especially to justify the fact that we are getting a Shrek 5 in the first place. But that is going to be a factor that only time will tell. So with all that said, if you are anticipated to go and check out Shrek 5, well, now go and update your calendars, because now Shrek 5 is going to be released on June 30th, 2027. And with that said, now it is time that I would like to go onto the chat wall, and I'd like to ask you, what do you all think about the delay of Shrek 5, where now it is going to be released in the summer of 2027. Do you guys think that it is a smart move? Do you think that it is ridiculous that Shrek is now going to be facing a lot of that competition? Or especially, I would like to know, why do you think Shrek 5 got delayed? In fact, let's go back and we're going to go and make another poll right over here, and we're gonna go and spice things up. Actually, I want to go and ask you all, why do you think Shrek 5 got delayed? So I'm gonna go and write down rework the movie, then I'll add character designs, and then avoid doomsday. Oops, I wrote down doomsday. Avoid doomsday and avoid doomsday and Dune. Okay, so we're gonna go with that. So this is gonna be an interesting poll to see what people will have to say. And now let's see what the chat wall has to comment here. All right, so here we go, folks. Another animated battle where we have the new Spider-Man himself, Miles Morales, and the all-star ogre himself, Shrek. the Black Cat from Gato, and the live-action cast of the How to Train Your Dragon remake, the summer of 2027 is going to be the anticipated moment for fans who have been waiting for so long since hand-drawn versus computer animation in the early 2000s. This battle is going to be intense for fans of all ages. Now, with all that said, let's get ready to rumble! Or, I know I keep using the word competition many times, but, it could be something that we don't have to make it a competition, theoretically. We can all just go and enjoy these movies individually as well. We could just make it a heck of a movie marathon also. So that's also another suggestion that I would like to go and make. We don't we don't have to make this a competition. It's just interesting to see how all these movies are just being released so close together. All right, so let's see what another comment here. This is not going to be one of my selective outrages, but stuff like what happened in the teaser trailer is the reason why I get excited and passionate of art evolution, especially art evolution of computer graphics. Okay, granted, I am aware I'm not immune to certain moments of drawbacks or of something new, rather how the characters are voiced and other stuff, but people making comments about the designs and saying that they're doing the Sonic effect due to it being delayed, mainly because of the impact. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, folks. Honestly, the more I think about it, the more I feel like I am not a fan of the whole Sonic redesign effect. Now, I'm not saying I am not against the redesign of Sonic in the Sonic movies itself. I think it is definitely a significant upgrade. But what I am against is the possible consequences of what would entail. Basically, you have these terminally online people who are dependent on social media, basically believing that they somehow have creative control over Hollywood, and that if they would go and bully and harass people enough, then they would go and ultimately get things their way, which honestly should not be something that has to, that should not be something that would happen, I feel like, honestly, it's just encouraging toxicity, thinking that this would be the way to go and get whatever you want. So honestly, yeah, I do, honestly, for me, I do hope that this delay is not because of the character designs just to cater to those terminally online social media people. And by the way, it looks like we did get the results here, and it looks like more than half of you who have voted believe that the reason why Shrek 5 got delayed is to avoid intense competition like Avengers Doomsday, Dune Part 3, and Ice Age 6, in which 62% of you have voted for that. Meanwhile, 29% of you voted for character designs, and only 10% who have voted said that it is to rework the movie. Very interesting results right there. All right, anyways, let's go back right over here. Shrek 5 delayed to June of 2027 is definitely going to be a bloodbath in the animation fandom. I do think it's beneficial that the crew has enough time to finish up the movie, but I feel like the reason why was because of Avengers Doomsday. I wouldn't be surprised if the movie kept the redesign we saw, since I don't think they have enough time to change Shrek and others since the animation is already in process. But I could be wrong, and they decided to change back to how Shrek looked in 2001. I guess ultimately we're going to have to wait and see until we get the next teaser trailer, basically. The next time that we do get a quote-unquote first look at Shrek 5, I think that's going to determine if they did anything with the character redesigns or not. All right, let's see what other comments we have here. I watched the first two movies, and I have watched the other two soon. And I have to watch the other two soon. It sucks that the movie is not going to be released in Shrek's 25th anniversary, but I guess you have more time to fix the movie and make it even with the animation. So the fans got to be happy. Let's hope the movie is not going to be delayed again because of Spider-Verse. In my opinion, it's better to be delayed to February. The funny thing is that I did hear people say that maybe there is a possibility that we'll see delays from the other movies, that in this case, there is a possibility that either How to Train Your Dragon 2, Beyond the Spider-Verse, or Gato might actually delay themselves and move it to another release date. To which in that regards, I feel like that is another possibility that we might see in the future as well. I don't think Pixar is going to move Gato because they're usually very stubborn with their release dates and they want to keep on the tradition of releasing Pixar films in the middle of June. Even if things don't necessarily work out like with Elio, they're still going to be trying anyways. So honestly, at that point, I wouldn't be surprised if either Spider-Verse or How to Train Your Dragon 2 would go and delay their release date. I think there could be a possibility we'll be hearing an update about that soon. Or not soon, but in a later time, like in several months from now, maybe. Let's see what other comments we have here. Let's see. Okay, I'll go with this. So many animated sequels we are getting in the coming years. The Super Mario Brothers movie 2, Toy Story 5, Minions 3, Ice Age 6, Spider-Man, Beyond the Spider-Verse, Shrek 5, The Angry Birds movie 3, Frozen 3, and 4. It's too much. And this is not even counting the ones from Netflix, actually, since they're going to be jumping onto the sequel bandwagon, since they do have a sequel to The Sea Beast coming up. And of course, they are talking about more sequels and a show and all, like basically turning K-pop Demon Hunters into a franchise. So, yeah, I mean that's pretty much the current climate of cinema. It's not just with animated films, but it's basically most movies nowadays. All right, so let's see. I already read that one. Excuse me. Let's see what other comments. All right, I'm honestly a little conflicted. While I am completely okay with Shrek 5 getting delayed to give the movie more time, but with all the competition that is coming out, honestly, I get why they have to delay it from December of 2026 to avoid big competition, most notably Avengers Doomsday, which regardless of what people think about it, is going to be a hit no matter what. Oh, absolutely. And I mean, especially now that we are seeing some of these Marvel movies starting to pick back up a little bit, especially with Fantastic Four. At least it's not like a complete box office bomb right there. Honestly, I can see that with Avengers Doomsday, yeah, it is going to be very anticipated. Let's see now. Honestly, I am fine with Shrek 5 being delayed a few months to avoiding competition with Avengers Doomsday. Ice Age 6 and Doom Part 3 should also need to be delayed. I'll be watching both Shrek 5, Beyond the Spider-Verse, and Gato when they are released in the summer of 2027. I don't care who wins because as an artist, I am supporting artists and animators. Look what happened when toxic communities are hating on Fix. Oh, you got that right. All right, I'm going to go and read one more comment, and then we're going to move on to our next break. Personally, I'm all okay with the delay of Shrek 5. I'm not going to say it because of the design change, because that's embarrassingly cringe, but rather it may be that the story needs some fine-tuning if it wants to be truly special. I do wish Shrek 5 turns out great since I'm very curious of how they'll handle the characters and settings. This ain't gonna be Ogre yet. Be prepared to see the green fat bastard to rumble against Miles Morales, the Black Cat, and live-action dragons. So with all that said, once again, if you guys are anticipated to go and check out Shrek 5, well, keep in mind that the movie is now going to be coming out on June 30th of 2027. So with that said, it is now time that we are going to go and take another break. And when we do come back, we are going to go and talk about K-Pop Demon Hunters once again. But what we are going to go and discuss here is not necessarily the movie itself, but who is considered to be the biggest loser of K-Pop Demon Hunters' success. And the answer might surprise you, actually, so stay tuned for that. All right, welcome back. Now, on our next story, we are going to go and talk about, once again, K-Pop Demon Hunters, in which right now its success is continuously getting bigger and bigger down to the point where now it is breaking the real significant records here. Like, it's already on track to possibly be one of the biggest, or actually to be the biggest streaming movie in history. Not just the biggest animated film on streaming, but just the biggest movie on streaming, period, even beating out Red Notice. And this is not even to mention many of the other achievements that KPop Demon Hunters has done, especially with its soundtrack. But I'm not here to go and talk about KPop Demon Hunters specifically. What I am here to go and talk about is actually the biggest loser of KPop Demon Hunters' success. Now, at this point, some people may think that the biggest loser would be Disney, or they would say Pixar, mainly because of Elio being released at the same time as KPop Demon Hunters, but unfortunately came out as a box office flop. But oh no, that's not actually the case, folks. That's not who I'm talking about here. In fact, this loser right over here, they wish to be like Disney and Pixar. Because the biggest loser of KPop Demon Hunters' success is actually the studio that made KPop Demon Hunters, Sony Pictures. Now, I know that sounds like a very weird comment. How the fridge is Sony the biggest loser of all this? They were the ones who created one of the biggest animated features of the year. How could they have taken the L on this? Well, it is actually very interesting. Because I got this article right over here from Forbes, in which they actually have a very clear explanation to why is it they lost big time here. So let me just go and read you from my source on Forbes, in which it says here, according to industry fixture Matt Belloni of Puck News, the problem is how this original deal was structured. Sony made KPop Demon Hunters for $100 million, then sold the rights to Netflix. Now reports are that Sony will end up making just $20 million in profit on the deal thanks to those terms, as anything that happens from here, that's all Netflix, since they own the property. Now, to go and give you a little bit of context, in case you might have heard, or in case you don't know, during the production of KPop Demon Hunters, Sony actually had no faith in the movie. Or at the most, they had very little faith, since they still let the movie actually happen. And they had such little faith, in fact, that not only did they decided to hand this over to Netflix, where they would be the distributors of the film and not even give it a chance to be released in theaters, but also they sold the entire rights of K-Pop Demon Hunters to Netflix. And as a result, what they got in return is a $20 million profit. Now, at that point, that doesn't really sound that bad. It sounds like pretty decent business. You know, you would go and create an entire movie, and then in return, you were able to turn that into a $20 million profit. You know, you did get a gain. You did get something out of it. You know, there are many movies out there that they would love to have that, you know, that they would make the movie, and then by the time they would be released either on streaming or in theaters, somehow they would end up in a position where what they end up with is plus $20 million. Sounds pretty good, right? Well, not in this case, because keep in mind that we are talking about K-Pop Demon Hunters here, a movie whose popularity could only be challenged by Nausea 2, or at least in terms of animated features released this year. In fact, this article would then go and describe more about the success of K-Pop Demon Hunters, in which it says right over here, the rest is history, of course. As I write this, K-Pop Demon Hunters remains the #1 movie on Netflix 7 weeks after release, something we've never seen before. It has been elevated to Netflix's second most viewed movie ever, and it has its sights set on #1, Red Notice. It has placed at #1 on almost every top music chart with its fictional group Huntrix's track Golden, most recently achieving the ultimate prize, landing at number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100, the first K-pop group to do so, and the first girl group to do so since Destiny's Child. So imagine this. We have a movie here in which it managed to break so many records in terms of movies on Netflix or just on streaming in general, where, like I said before, it's on its way to be the most streamed movie in history to ultimately break that record. And on top of that, the movie also has a soundtrack in which that is also breaking records, in which some of its singles, especially Golden, has managed to go and really top the charts, including Golden was able to go and be at number 1 at the Billboard Top 100. So with all of that, you can imagine that Netflix is making absolute bank, and they were able to do so by doing absolutely nothing. All they did was just buy the rights from Sony, and then they were able to really go and profit from the rest, profiting off of its success, off of the success of the soundtrack, and this is not even to mention the merchandising. Meanwhile, well, as Huntrix would probably describe it best, Sony Pictures getting none, absolutely none of the rewards that they would get from the success would be seen from Sony Pictures. So they received absolutely nothing, and they will see nothing from its success in the long run. They already got that $20 million plus, and that is pretty much it. So that is what I mean by the fact that Sony Pictures came out as an absolute loser. Because compared to what Netflix is getting in terms of the success of K-Pop Demon Hunters, Sony is seeing absolutely none of it. And by the way, I might as well go and say this right now. You can pretty much forget to think about what the creatives, what the actual team who made the movie, like, you can forget about them getting any major rewards for the movie's success. Now, granted, there are stories in which the cast are actually seeing great benefits from it. I actually did hear that apparently the voice of Genu, he really turned his life around, where his career got a massive, significant boost. And you know what? Great on him. But when it comes to the team at Sony Pictures Animation, yeah, although, okay, well, technically, they did get their payments, and, you know, they already got their rewards, and, you know, they already got their payments in terms of, or their compensation per se, of the job they've done for making the movie itself. But in terms of the rewards of how well K-Pop Demon Hunters have succeeded, I doubt if they would see anything from it, because it's certainly not going to be Sony who's going to give them the rewards. I mean, maybe they did get something, but I don't know. I haven't heard anything, and feel free to go and confirm if the creative team at Sony Animation did get something from the success of K-Pop Demon Hunters, but honestly, I highly doubt it. But it's honestly very interesting to see how Sony received very little from K-Pop Demon Hunters because of their own hubris, because of the fact that they doubted K-Pop Demon Hunters and how far it would go, to the point that they decided to just freely give it away to Netflix and only get a little bit of compensation in return. And it's funny because now I know that this has become a very toxic discussion in which, like, so many people on the internet would keep on comparing K-Pop Demon Hunters to take down Elio, to slam and shame it, and pretty much weaponize K-pop in order to attack the Pixar film. But it's funny to see the perspective of that little made-up feud, per se. Because the thing is now, if we are looking at this quote-unquote battle of Disney versus Sony with Elio and K-Pop Demon Hunters, Disney right now has a massive advantage over Sony. Because there's one thing that Disney has with Elio that Sony does not with K-Pop Demon Hunters. And that is the fact that not only do they still have the rights to Elio, but they also have a second chance with Elio. And that is when Elio would be released, or when Elio is going to be released on Disney+. And from there, that can actually give the Pixar movie a second chance to see if it can find success and profitability. And if it does, then Disney is going to be reaping those rewards. And I'll even say right now, there is actually a good chance that it could do so, especially with the fact that despite all the backlash and the controversies related to using K-Pop Demon Hunters to go and attack Elio and stuff like that, Elio did receive a lot of positive reception and did receive some good word of mouth. And this is not even to mention that the post-credit scene featuring the lizard from Hoppers, that went on to become a massive viral sensation. So there actually is a strong possibility that maybe Elio could actually find success onto streaming. And again, if it does, then Disney will be rewarded for that. Disney will actually see some long-term success and long-term profitability if Elio manages to do extremely well on Disney+. And oh my God, I only just mentioned about the lizard from Hoppers, and already I'm starting to see the chat wall is starting to spam the lizard emoji. Oh my God, I'm not against it, but I just find it to be so funny. It was like, did someone say lizard? Lizard, 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 lizard. Oh man, as you can see, folks, I am actually a fan of that meme, and I'm honestly glad that it is a meme. So you know what, great on the Pixar team for actually creating this viral sensation that came out of nowhere. But anyways, to go back to what I am talking about, yes, right now, with the fact that Disney still owns the rights to Elio, they do have another chance to see some long-term profitability. Sony, on the other hand, they will never see any long-term profitability with K-Pop Demon Hunters because it's no longer their movie. It all belongs to Netflix now. And you got to keep in mind that with Netflix, they, like as I recently talked about, they're not going to stop at this movie alone. They are planning to go and make a big name franchise out of it. They're already talking about more shorts. They're talking about a series. They're talking about turning it into a trilogy. And there are rumors that they might even go and turn it into a stage musical and a live action remake. Although a lot of people are saying that the live action remake might never happen. But still, though, the point is that Netflix is considering a lot of ideas on how to turn K-Pop Demon Hunters into their next big name franchise and to really go and aggressively capitalize on the success that we are seeing right now. And when we go look into Sony's case right over here, honestly, this puts them in a very interesting spot. I want to know what Sony is going to do at this point, because there is a good chance that Netflix would want to go and collaborate with Sony in order to make more K-Pop Demon Hunters, since they are the ones who actually made the movie in the first place. And so far, we don't know what it is just yet. In fact, this article here would even go and highlight that issue, in which it would say right over here, as for Sony, its involvement in what happens from here is unclear. Netflix, of course, needs someone to make these future movies. And while Sony largely missed out on the success of the first film, I imagine that it will not slip away the second or third time around. Excuse me, folks. We have no announcement of what's coming next for K-Pop Demon Hunters, and that may be why. I've asked Sony for comment and will report if I heard back. So yeah, honestly, that's going to be the real interesting thing that's going to happen next. It's not necessarily what's going to be the next big project related to K-Pop Demon Hunters. is it's going to be, what is it that Sony will want to go and do next, and how will they go and approach this new deal that they would probably go and do with Netflix? Because that's one thing that they have to acknowledge, is that they missed out on a massive opportunity here. And if they're going to continue and try to turn K-Pop Demon Hunters into a franchise with Netflix, then they would have, I would even say, they must make a negotiation. They must make a deal with Netflix where they also see some of that long-term success as well. Because ironically, now Netflix is pretty much in a similar position to where Disney is with the Spider-Man film rights, where at least with the MCU films, Disney is the one who is responsible with making the MCU Spider-Man films, while Sony is the one who is responsible for releasing it and to go and really profit the most out of it by getting the grand majority of its revenue. But now at this point, they need to go and talk to Netflix in order to go and actually make a similar deal to what Disney did with Sony on Spider-Man. Like, now Sony needs to go and actually discuss with Netflix, like, hey, K-Pop Demon Hunters got really big. We want to see some of that money and some of that success as well. They have to do so, or else Sony probably got screwed. Like, Sony would end up being screwed over big time. Like, this would honestly be one of the biggest mistakes in Hollywood history, and it's going to be something that Sony is seriously going to suffer from in the long run. Like, this will be noted as like one of the biggest mistakes that a Hollywood studio has ever done. So overall, when I say that Sony lost big on K-Pop Demon Hunters, I do not mean on the movie itself, because even though I personally don't love the movie and I don't think it's like the best animated film of the year, I do acknowledge it definitely is a good movie. It definitely is solid as is. And I'm not saying that they lost because of how well the movie itself performed, because I mean, with all the records that it's been doing, I think that speaks for itself. But the reason why I say that Sony lost on K-Pop Demon Hunters is by how much it missed out on in terms of the long-term revenue that they have not received, in which they have lost hundreds of millions of dollars. And even thinking ahead, they lost on a full-on possible billion-dollar franchise. Like, I can guarantee you how much that Sony Pictures has missed out on. They lost so much more than what Pixar lost on Elio in terms of its box office results. So yeah, I think it's honestly something that is worth mentioning. And again, Sony only has themselves to blame because they doubted the project when that film was released. And by the way, I just want to go and, I almost forgot about this, but I just want to go and also say this right now, that the more I think about it, the more, honestly, it is so stupid that Sony decided to just go and sell it, go and immediately sell all the rights to Netflix and just get that $20 million plus in return, and that's it. It's honestly so stupid, mainly because Sony had all the time and had all the opportunity to go and actually negotiate on a good deal with Netflix if they would go and distribute their movies exclusively on that platform, because they have seen legitimate success there before. They have done this and they have seen how well their movies can do, especially back in 2021 when there was The Mitchells versus the Machines and Vivo. And keep in mind, during that time, K-Pop Demon Hunters was well early in development. So in that regards, they should have seen the success that those two movies have done, and they should have considered that for next time, if they would go and do that again, they would have to go and talk with Netflix in order to make a better deal where they could profit off of it. Even if they wouldn't believe that the movie would be that successful in the first place, it would still be worth a shot to make that kind of negotiation in case it would go well. So yeah, honestly, I just wanted to go and throw in my piece on this because, yeah, it's just absolutely ridiculous the way that Sony seriously missed out so badly on K-Pop Demon Hunters. And I'm sure that's going to be a decision that they will regret for years to come, as Huntrix is just going to be bigger from here. All right, so with that said, now I would like to go and pass this on to the chat wall. And I'd like to ask you all, what did you all think on Sony losing big on K-Pop Demon Hunters? And I would especially like to know, if you are a major K-Pop Demon Hunters fan, I would like to know what you think on this. All right, so let's see now. What do we have here? Sony made the biggest animated movie of the year, if not the decade, that they could have made into a franchise all to themselves, and they won't be able to make another dime on it. I know the animation community likes to say, this animation studio is destroying Disney. But in reality, no matter what weapon their combatants try to bring to the animation war, Disney already controls the terrain. Wish may have flopped, but Disney is still making bank on Asha dolls. Oh, trust me. And not to mention that there are some countries out there, like, just to go on a side note on Wish, like, there are some countries that they're already loving Wish. Again, like, I probably already mentioned this before, but in my recent trip to Japan, like, honestly, the latest animated feature that they were promoting from Disney, it's not Inside Out 2, it's not Moana 2, even if that film was still in theaters in Japan, it's Wish. Like, they were still selling some legit Wish merch, and not to mention that Disney is seeing a lot of massive profitability off of Disney Plus. So in that regard, it doesn't really matter if things don't go well at the box office with their new major movies, because again, they could find a second chance of profitability and success when it lands on streaming. So yeah, you do make a pretty good point. So like, yeah, like even though like maybe in terms of the battle of like Elio versus K-Pop Demon Hunters or like Disney versus Sony, like, yeah, K-pop won in the short term, but in terms of the long run, Sony lost big time on that. Let's see now. Honestly, to Sony Pictures, womp womp to them. I'm honestly more happy with the cast and crew that made the movie. They made something special by a bunch of amazing people that deserve so much more credit. I remember when I first heard about K-Pop Demon Hunters at DesignCon 2022, when Sony Pictures Animation were in the event, and I got to talk to Christine Belson at the event and rooted for them. Also, she's a big fan of Turning Red. Oh, that's nice. Oh, wow. You get to talk to freaking Christine Belson? Yo, that is major. You're talking to the head of Sony Animation right there. Holy crap, John, what the fridge is with your connections? Okay, anyways, let's see what else, what other comments we have here. Sony, what have you done? You gave the most popular movie that people have watched, including myself, to a streaming service because you don't have faith with it, don't have faith with it. And since Netflix now has the rights to it and how big it is, you can imagine the girl swimming in cash, Scrooge McDuck style, and the planned series from that one animated Oz movie that turned out to be a scam from an actor. Shame, Sony, for shame. All right, let's see what other comments we have here. That's a lesson from Sony that they have to give some of their movies a chance. Congratulations to Netflix for making a big-ass success of K-Pop Demon Hunters. The song Soda Pop exploded on TikTok. Man, people also, if they make a K-Pop Demon Hunters series, let's hope that the animators are now going to be The animators are now going to be damn crap like these other Netflix movies based on movies like the Megamind series from the crap sequel. Did you see the K-Pop Demon Hunter trend on TikTok? Honestly, I'm not on TikTok as much, or at least I'm not casually on TikTok as much. So honestly, I wouldn't really say. I don't think I've seen that trend going on. Anyways, let's see what other comments are there. I am happy that K-Pop Demon Hunters is successful on Netflix. I am happy with the artists and animators who worked on the film. I am happy with the cast who got extra rewards. The mistake has nothing to do with Sony Pictures Animation because the Sony Pictures executives are dumb these days, greenlit unnecessary films that later failed in the end, like Morbius and Morbius 2: Kraven the Hunter. Yeah, exactly. When I do say Sony, by the way, I do mean Sony Pictures specifically, not necessarily Sony Pictures Animation, especially nowadays when it really does feel like Sony Animation is like a completely separated entity that's slowly but surely distancing itself away from Sony Pictures. I mean, they're slowly coming back, especially when they do have movies like Beyond the Spider-Verse and GOAT that they are going to be released in theaters. But still, though, it's stuff like this that makes me question the relationship between Sony Pictures and its primary animation studio. All right, and I'm going to go and read one more comment before we move on to our grand finale here. Let's see if there's one I haven't read. So, did I? Oh, okay. All right, I didn't read this one. So, I find it so funny that people use K-Pop Demon Hunters to attack Elio, only then later learned that Sony only made some chump change from the film. Disney definitely got the last laugh when it comes to money. I do hope Elio does well on Disney Plus because I do hope the strong positive word of mouth would help the film become a sleeper hit. But yeah, so sorry, Sony, you missed out on the Huntrix money, big time. Exactly. So if there is a lesson to be had here, go watch Elio when it comes out on Disney Plus. Nah, but for real though, yeah, I think it's safe to say that Sony took quite an L for missing out on one of the biggest animated films of the year. So with that said, it is now time we have one more break, and when we do come back, we're gonna go and discuss about a little bonus story that does have a little bit of an animation connection, but I'm just going to tell you right now, there is going to be a trigger warning on this because, yeah, we're going to go and cap this off on an anger-inducing note, so stay tuned for that. Hey, so before we continue, there's just one quick thing that I want to go and mention because I was scrolling through Facebook as I was waiting until it comes back on. But I did see a report, and it's a little bit sad, that there is an adult animator or someone who produces like adult animation, and I do mean like adult animation, has sadly passed away. It was just reported that Mr. X-Toon, who is known to create some high-quality animation of male Disney characters, being gay with each other, has unfortunately passed away, which is quite a shame, sadly. So just thought, since this is animation related, and I am a supporter of, yes, that kind of adult animation as well. Like, even if it is not safe for work, it is still animation, and these are still hardworking artists, and, they deserve support. So honestly, yeah. So just thought I would go and mention that, sadly, Mr. X-Toon is no longer with us. So yeah, sadly, he has passed away, and may he rest in peace. But anyways, going back to our main topic of why we are here and what we are about to talk about, it is, of course, the grand finale. And for this grand finale, I'm just going to tell you right now, this is going to come with a trigger warning. This is going to be Woo, excuse me, folks. Just trying to calibrate with my stomach over here to make sure that we can continue with this. But yes, this story is going to include a trigger warning. And I'm going to be warning you right now that what I will be talking about, it will be frustrating to go and hear. And it's just anger-inducing to hear that there are these types of stupid people in this world. But sadly, crap like this does happen. So I'm just going to be warning you right now. So without further ado, let's go straight into it. And yes, technically there is an animation connection, so stay with me on this one. Let's go and talk about the teen mom who was arrested. So what happened? In fact, I'm going to go and read you basically what has happened from my source on NDTV World, in which it states, an 18-year-old Florida teen has been arrested after she locked her daughter inside a swelling car to watch the new Smurfs movie with her siblings. The incident came to light after the Regal Cinema 90, located on US Highway 90, alerted authorities around 5:49 p.m. about a distressed child locked inside a vehicle. The officers, upon arrival, found the child, who looked flush, was crying, and drenched in sweat, according to the Lake Police Department press release. The officers report that the outside temperature was 34.4 degrees Celsius with a heat index of 41.7 degrees Celsius. So it wasn't just hot, it was effing hot. And before I continue, by the way, I just want to go and make a clarification that don't worry, there is a silver lining to all this. The baby is fine. The baby was rushed to go and get some medical attention, and right now the baby is perfectly okay. And as for the mother in question here, which her name is Tripura Mariex, right now she is in custody at the Columbia County Jail and is now being held on a $50,000 bond. But the thing is, again, considering that I did tell you about the trigger warning, unfortunately, this is one of those stories where it gets more and more and more frustrating from there. Because what has happened specifically is that Mariex, I believe that's what I said, right? Oh, yeah. So Mariex decided that she wanted to bring her child and her siblings to go and check out Smurfs. So she went to the cinema, she brought everybody in to go and watch the movie, and then the baby started to cry. So from there, she would try to make sure the baby is okay, even getting out into the lobby to make sure the baby can go and calm down. But she would have to go and do a few trips. But eventually the baby wouldn't stop crying. So she decided the best idea is, you know what? I'm going to go and leave the baby in the car so that I could go and watch the movie in peace. She even stated, she actually did make a comment in which she stated, or at least the arrest report has actually said, Mrs. Mariex said that she brought her daughter out to the lobby to keep from disrupting other movie viewers' experiences. But of course, she started out with that, but then she would go into the drastic measure of putting her kid in the car. And then from time to time, she would get out of the theater, go check on the kid in the car, and then she would go back. She did do that maybe a couple of times or a few times, but then eventually she just wanted to sit down and watch the movie. So she actually went to send her siblings to go and check out the baby to see if the kid is all right, so that she could go and actually stay and watch the feature. So honestly, from there, I gotta say that is probably the most anger-inducing part of this entire story. It's not the fact that she left her baby in the car to go and watch the Smurfs movie. It's the fact that she deliberately left her baby in the car to go and watch the movie. That was unironically a choice that she made. Because the thing is, the reason why it's so anger-inducing is merely because when you would hear about these stories about leaving a child or leaving a pet in a very hot car, usually those incidents would occur because the parent or the owner, they would be neglectful. They would just be completely stupid and they just completely forgot that they were in the car. So it really is just out of stupidity. However, you could argue that they didn't mean to go and do so. They didn't intend to leave them in the car while they would be going out shopping, or that they would go and actually that they would watch a movie or anything like that. Because it should be common knowledge to not leave either your child or your pet in a very hot car, because then they would suffocate and then, well, they would lose their life from that. So just imagine that somehow this woman decided that she would deliberately go and leave her baby in the car just to go and watch a movie. A movie, by the way, that even though some could say it's a short film, it's still a movie that's like 80 to 90 minutes long. So even leaving a child like for like 30 minutes or so, like that's a full-on death sentence right there. And honestly, you would think that would be common knowledge. That's like parenting 101, to not leave your baby in a very hot car like that. Especially if you're in a place like Florida, where it is constantly hot, no matter which season it would be, and especially during the summer, where it would be a serious challenge to the point where it's almost uninhabitable at times, especially when the sun can be at its worst, whenever the summer would be at its hottest. Like, that should immediately be like the first thing to go and tell you after the baby is born. It's like, here's your baby. By the way, don't leave it in a freaking hot car. Like, and it's honestly something that this woman should have known when her and her siblings went in the car in the first place. Like, they should have known, like, they step outside, boy, it's hot outside, and then go in the car, boy, it's even hotter in the car. You should have known that this is not an environment for a baby to be in the first place. It's honestly ridiculous. Why would she go and do that? And apparently, according to reports, they would say that it's because she's a bad mother in the first place. It even actually says, it was right over here, in which, according to Mary X's arrest record, her husband later stated in interviews that she had a habit of making irrational decisions about how to handle their daughter crying. He accused her of having a negative reaction towards stress related to being a parent and the lack of patience when it comes to caring for the child. And there's even an additional comment on top where it even says, well, it's like what I already said, where the cops told the outlet after a few trips of Mrs. Mary X's going out to her vehicle, the other two individuals that she had come into the cinema with started alternating out on every other trip. And the thing is that it like, the reason why this is so stupid, it's like even just that idea alone of like, okay, I'll leave the baby in the car, but hey, I'll go check on it from time to time. No, that shouldn't be the answer. Like, even if you're going to go in to check on it, you should never leave your baby in a hot car in the first place. It doesn't matter who's going to come in to check, because eventually it will happen that you're just going to go in and be like, oh, let me see how the baby is doing. Oh, nope, it turned into a cooked chicken. Oh, well, guess I don't have a baby anymore. It's honestly ridiculous. And you know the irony, the thing is the funny thing about this, or, well, it's not necessarily funny, but the weird thing is that her excuse as to why she would go and do so is that she wanted to go and not disrupt the audience. She doesn't want to go and disturb the other people who were in the cinema who were watching Smurfs. So, like, she wanted to make sure that nobody is disrupted with the experience because of her baby. So she was trying to go and try to think of others, like, make sure everybody can have a good time with watching the Smurfs movie. Which, honestly, I'm gonna call her out on that, and I'm gonna cry foul. Because the thing is that you're going to watch the Smurfs. Because I'm just going to say right now, already, as I am recording this, it is rare to go and even find a cinema that is still showing the Smurfs movie in the first place, considering how that film immediately bombed right on arrival. Like, it bombed so bad, even Elio is looking down on it going, dang, what the fridge happened to you? You know, it is legit that bad. So at that point, it's already rare to find a cinema that would even have the Smurfs. And even at that, who the fridge is going to go and watch the Smurfs in the first place? Like, if you're going to go, like, if you would try to go and find a screening of the Smurfs, it would be very doubtful if it would actually have a bunch of other people who would go and watch it. Maybe you would have like a group of 2 and 3 people, maybe having their kids. Like, maybe you'll see like a few individuals scattered around. But honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if that would be a fib that she would say, and that the only people who are watching Smurfs on that screening is her and her siblings, and that's it. And considering what her husband has indicated with the kind of parent that she is, I wouldn't be surprised if she would be making up that kind of allegation just to go and save herself and try to make herself look a bit, try to make herself look like a better person than what she actually is. So honestly, there's just so much of it with what she says, it doesn't make sense. And regardless of how she would spin, it all indicates that she is a terrible mother. That in a way, she shouldn't even be a mother in the first place. Like, I know this is going to be a controversial statement, but honestly, when she got pregnant, she should have considered abortion. Like, I get it. She's in Florida. It would be next to impossible to find a service that could even offer that in the first place. But this is honestly part of the reason why abortions are there in the first place, because not everyone is destined to be a parent, or not everyone is, not everyone is made to be a parent in the first place. And obviously, this woman here is not one of them, especially with the way that she neglectfully treated her baby, like leaving her in the car by choice, and what her husband has indicated. And honestly, a best way to go and cap off with this is honestly with a quote here coming from the chief of police, Gerald Butler, which, by the way, yes, I do want to state that, yes, it is Gerald Butler. And even I had to go and have a second take. I did have a second take when I read that. I was like, wait a minute, what? It was weird. But anyways, the chief of police actually stated right over here, our officers acted swiftly to ensure the safety of this young child. Leaving a child unattended in a vehicle under these conditions is unacceptable. We are thankful the child is safe and urge all parents to prioritize the well-being of their children at all times. So that is a great lesson to have. And I also want to go and include, if you want to go and watch whatever movie you want, if you want to have your own personal time, like, completely separated from your child to just to have a fun little experience, you can feel free to do so. Like, honestly, this woman has every right to go and watch the Smurfs movie, and just have a great time with it with her siblings. But she should have thought a little bit more ahead in order to figure out what to do with her child, to make sure that she could be taken care of in the first place. She should have hired a babysitter. She should have given it to her husband if she's not accompanying them. She should have done something to ensure that the baby's safety is perfectly fine while she would go and watch the movie. Bringing her on board when she wouldn't really know what to do when the baby is crying, when she's not doing well when it comes to handling being a parent, when she clearly doesn't have the maturity or the knowledge on how to take responsibility to a child. Honestly, it is a big tell that I really do hope that the baby has a better future without that mother. I know it's harsh, but honestly, I'm just I'm just in the mindset of thinking about what is best for the baby right now, and that mother ain't it. All right, so with that said, Now I would like to go and pass this on to the chat wall, and I'd like to ask you all, what do you all think about this story right over here? If you have any comments, if you have any thoughts, don't hesitate to go and let that out. All right, so let's see what we have here. True story. Some of the first movies I ever saw in theaters include Madagascar, Over the Hedge, and Cars. And while I have very little memory of seeing those films on the big screen in the summer of 2005 and 2006, I did end up leaving the theater because I was a bit too young at the time, considering I was born in October of 2003. Yes, this commenter here is born in 2023, folks. We're talking to a 2-year-old. No, I'm just kidding, dude. I'm just kidding. And with stupid stories like this makes me thankful that I was raised well in my childhood. By the way, what were some of the first films you saw in theaters? Well, if it can help to go and lighten up the mood here, for me, believe it or not, actually, it's with some of the some of the legendary animated films of the 1990s. So considering that I was born in 1992, believe it or not, according to my parents, the first ever movie that I experienced in theaters was the original release of The Lion King. And I even have faint memories of seeing the first Toy Story on the big screen as well. And trying to think of some of the others. Honestly, like at that point, like it is still a little bit vague. Like most of the memories I remember with movies were watching them on VHS. But yes, I would say the original release of The Lion King and the first Toy Story. At least that's on my end. Let's see. What other comments do we have here? I can't believe someone kept a baby in the car so she can watch the freaking Rihanna Smurfs movie of all things. This is not the first time where we had movie theater news related to a family film that police got involved in. Remember the chicken jockey scene where everybody went crazy? If you want to keep a baby away from not bothering anyone, just hire a babysitter and never leave it in a hot car and turn it into a human roast so you can watch the film. Thank God the child is okay, by the way. Exactly, man. I think honestly, there should be, there should be an age minimum when it comes to bringing a child in theaters, because, and it's not necessarily because of like, oh, the child can get annoying, the child can be loud, the child can be crying and all that kind of stuff. No, it's mostly because in regards to the parents and when it comes to everyone else. Because you wouldn't want to bring a child to a screening of the Minecraft movie, especially with a bunch of freaks going crazy over the chicken jockey meme, which I still stand by is one of the worst memes of the year, and something that I feel like those people involved in it should be ashamed of themselves. Like, I'll still stand by saying that the chicken jockey meme is objectively worse than the ending of the Lilo and Stitch remake. But on top of that, it's also because of the parents where, they would still be new parents and probably wouldn't know what to do in those situations. So yeah, honestly, I propose we should have an age minimum for movie theaters. Let's see, what else do we have here? What other comments to read? So I just got my driver's license by practicing and reading the handbook. The handbook says it's never okay to leave a baby behind in the car. It's very dangerous for the baby. Then this happens. All this for the frickin' Smurfs. If she can't handle a baby on her own, then I think she can handle driving a vehicle. If she can't handle a baby on her own, then I think she can't handle driving a vehicle as well. Yeah, this woman is absolutely insane and disgusting. She's allowed to do this. She couldn't just wait for a home media release. Like, oh my God, this is awful. And I'll just say this right now. Honestly, it wouldn't matter if she would go and watch either Smurfs or if she would go and watch either Naked Gun or The Bad Guys 2 or Superman or anything like that. The fact that she would go and do this to this baby so that she would want to go and experience the movie, that's honestly the worst part of it all. Like, again, I feel like the indication of the factor with the Smurfs, for me, that just feels like she's lying about what she says, because even though I wasn't there at that particular screening, but I doubt that there are many other people in there who would even be bothered by a crying baby in the first place. So honestly, I really question the amount of people that she claims to be thinking about when the child is crying. All right, let's see what other comments are there. Let's see. Yeah, okay. Oh boy. Oh, we got a big rant right over here. This woman is just nothing but stars. I can't believe she put her baby in her car so that she can watch the freaking Smurfs movie. I mean, I can't believe this woman. Guys, oh my God, I can't believe this. This is the most surprising story in this stream. Man, you need to do a highlight when you release the stream on YouTube. Oh my God, this is terrible, dude. Oh my God, this woman, aka the Smurfs fan, is a dumb woman, deserves a restraining order so that she could stay away from her child. Dang, what a rant right there. Actually, I have another story in mind that I want to go and release as part of the highlights, so you'll see what I have in mind. Okay, anyway, so I think we'll cap this off with this story right over here. Let's see now. Let me say this. Wow, so irresponsible. And I should know, as a babysitter and an uncle to wonderful kids, watching over them is a #1 priority. They need all the attention they can get, and they never deserve that kind of stunt. Also, really, Smurfs, you had more choices, woman, not to mention you couldn't bring the kid in for that. I would only hope for the kid has a better future and a better life. Makes me glad I was raised I am. Exactly, folks. If there is one, if there is another silver lining from this, other than the fact that the baby is okay, be thankful that you are definitely more responsible and a better person than this crazy lady right over here. And with that said, folks, that should do it for this episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast. And boy, is it great to be back. Let me just say thank you all so much for joining me on this. And if you would like to go and follow for more crazy adventures of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast, then keep in mind that you can go and subscribe to either the AniMat Live Twitch channel or the AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast YouTube channel. And at the same time, if you are listening to me on whatever podcast service you're listening to, then don't forget to go and follow me there, whether it be on Spotify, Amazon, Apple, and more. And with all that said, I would like to say thank you all so much for listening. Thank you all so much for watching. And until next time, see you later, dudes.